Excited to have you back for another weekly Plan With Me series. This week we're going to be really focusing on our 2-week plan. I've decided that we're going to be taking things on in 2-week increments, at least when it comes to fully taking a look at everything happening inside of my work bullet journal. We'll still be setting up our weekly Plan With Me's here inside of the bullet journal. I like the way this works, but my task planner really works best off of a 2-week time period. And we'll go through all of that today. First, I thought we'll go ahead through our normal process, which is just going to be updating our trackers. We have had some progress with Instagram over the past 2 weeks since the last time that we planned, and just some updates with YouTube as well. So first and foremost, let's talk about the Instagram tracker. So last time that we were here, we filled up all the way into 22.1 thousand. I'm excited that in those past 2 weeks, I've grown by 200. So that's pretty exciting. On the 3rd, actually, like right after we planned everything before, it went up to 22.2 thousand. And then just this past week, we climbed to 22.3. Really excited about that. There's a lot of really good things that happened in those 2 weeks. First and foremost, and we'll be using this today, I started playing around with Distress Oxide inside of my bullet journal, and I had a reel that just totally exploded. It did really well on YouTube Shorts as well, so I was excited about it. So that was helpful. And then also another good post, I posted actually about using these little dots in the bottom of the bullet journal pages, and Bullet Journal reshared that on their account, and that got a lot of eyeballs on it, which was great. So we're going to fill these two in. When I actually did my very first setup inside of this bullet journal, as you can see, this stamp is upside down. I don't know what I was doing, but wasn't really thinking about it at the time and put it upside down, but just kept it going because, as I always say, like, this is reality. There's mistakes that are going to happen. We very well may make some mistakes today. You never quite know. So this is what's always fun about my Plan With Me's. So along with taking a look at this, now we're not going to be updating YouTube just yet. We are actually going to take a look at that in February. So I do that on more of a monthly update. One thing though that I did update over there actually has to do with the videos. So along with tracking the subscribers, which I'm really pumped for February setup in the next 2 weeks, because there's been a lot of growth on YouTube as well, and I love that, and I really appreciate everyone who subscribes and follows along here. But we also have a lot of videos that are coming out. So far this month, I've published 6 videos. This will be my 7th video for January, and then I have a few more coming up. So we're actually going to be looking at a lean photo printer that's going to be coming up later on this week. We also have a doodle everything, so working along with an author who has a doodling book, and we'll talk all about that in the future. We're also going to be doing something fun with a procrastination checklist and working with Zinnia. And then, of course, I'll have another bullet journal Plan With Me. So by the time I think we meet again, we'll have about 11 videos going on here, which is pretty exciting, and I'm excited for that. I wanted to also show you this week, I had a few comments that are like, hey Mark, we love seeing what's inside of your bullet journal. We love seeing how you use it. So I wanted to show you just 2 recent updates from a collection standpoint inside of here. So I have one that I'm working on for our tools and tech. I'm creating a wiki for work and updating everything from like Word documents into a Teams wiki. So I've been going through this and updating that as I go and just checking them off inside of here. And then I had a re-up for one of the tools that we use. I was really excited because I got everybody approved before the due date, which is awesome. I love when that happens. So even though I do this digitally and keep track of this and audit this digitally, I like to write it down. I just really love doing that. So I wrote out each business unit, when I sent that email, and then when they approved it, and it worked out really well. We had this past week that we did everything looking pretty good. I'll tell you, my bullet journal and the way that I'm using this has definitely changed, and I like it. Everything used to go in here. I used to go through several pages a week, and now just with kind of having this weekly and then partnering that with our task planner, which we're going to get into next, I really like the way that this is working so far. There have been some moments where I'm like writing down a note and I'm like, oh, should I put that in my task planner? But what I've been doing, and you'll see, is actually taking any notes from here and then taking them back over there instead of my task section. And it's been working out pretty good. So excited about that. We'll actually be setting up our big weekly Plan With Me this week in this page towards the end of this video as we set that up. But first, I want to get everything into this task planner. One of the big reasons I decided to use the task planner this year was because for work, one of my big things that I'm trying to do this year is really focus on being kind of a better future planner. And a really big part of that, in my opinion, is being able to future plan. And not that a bullet journal can't do that, it can. I've just never been really good at making that happen in the bullet journal. So I wanted some help. So I have my appointed yearly task planner that's broken down into months. And I'll just tell you, I love just being able to like flip the page or write down a note for a future thing and go through that. So I have updated my monthly goals here since the first time that we set this up. One of the things that we've been working on, we'll talk about this in just a second, was the team norms documentation. I finally broke that down in a much more manageable way. I felt like I just wanted to do it all at the same time, and that wasn't working. I wasn't making progress. So I decided, I chatted with my boss about it. Hey, I'm going to take an iterative approach to this. I'm just going to start creating it in chunks. And she was all about it, and I was thrilled this week. I got like half of it done, and I felt really good about that. I'm working on a comms plan as well for work. I need to create an outline for that, so that's still on my agenda to do. And then I have a new monthly goal I need to set up, which is a skills org chart that I'm working on for our design community. So my monthly overview here is filling itself out pretty good. I'm excited about what's happening here. So this week we'll actually be setting up another 2-week plan. I mentioned this in my first video. Rachel in Theory has been a really fantastic and amazing help to me when it comes to using your bullet journal or your planners for work. She mentioned using a 2-week kind of agile approach to herself, and I thought, well, my teams work like that too. I should try it. And it's been really helpful for me in communicating what I want to get done in a 2-week period versus just focusing on a week. I may have mentioned it before, but I work in design operations, so my time works a bit differently than our design team does, where my projects aren't kind of on a weekly basis or even on a 2-week, but it's been helpful for me to break down really large projects into smaller chunks, which I did, and I've been really good about. So I've set up my kind of future work right now, at least things that I know that I have coming up, big ones. This week, we don't have work on the 16th because work is closed for the holiday. I have a 30-minute team meeting that we're setting up since we're not meeting on Monday and kind of getting into the week. I have a one-on-one with my boss this week, so that's on the 18th, and I have some things I have to do and prep up for. There are some other meetings inside of here, but I've been trying to use this page mostly for like my highest level things that I need to do. So as a part of this, what we're going to do is set up a new 2-week project sprint for myself. I have a number of things that I have to accomplish and get through in the next 2 weeks. So let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit. So for the past 2 weeks, the 7th through the 14th, my big ideas or things that needed to get done was finish bringing these team norms documents together and then analyzing those and kind of organizing those, which I did accomplish. By breaking this down, I made it happen. I did not start on the comms plan outline. There was a number of things that kind of got in my way this week that I had to get done instead of that. While this still needs to get done this month, I think I can get it done in the next 2 weeks, and I think I'll be in an okay spot. And I'm just working on the outline there. I'm not working on the entire thing. So we'll make that happen. So we'll go ahead and write these down, everything that I need to accomplish in the next 2 weeks. I'm really going to try to limit myself, and I was even thinking, is 3 things too much to get done in 2 weeks? I think it really does depend on the size of the project. But for this upcoming week, what I'm going to do is go ahead and migrate the plan outline here. So that is going to be the first thing that I want to try to accomplish and start to tackle. The next thing is I need to finish the team norms documentation that I've been doing here. So I've analyzed, I've organized, I've actually started this already and broke it down into pieces. So I want to finish that up in the next 2 weeks. And then I have a new priority that I need to take on, which is setting up this skills live org charts for my design community, which I'm really excited about. Some good old fashioned design operations work, which I'm pumped on. So this is what this past week has looked like for me inside of my task planner. It is crazy, as you can see, but I'm really loving how this is working out. The left-hand side of the page this week was used for team capacity. I said that I was going to take this digitally, and I am going to still convert it there, but this has actually been a nice space to keep the capacity for the team as we're going through our team meetings and paying attention. I also like that I'll be able to track that every single week, so I have a little bit of a plan to it that I'm thinking about. A lot of events, kind of more of the kind of more granular view than what's happening over here. A lot more of my meetings and things that are going over here. And then, wow, this filled up so quickly this past week. It's kind of insane, but excited to kind of take things forward with me. Got a number of things that I got done. So we are going to flip our page to a fresh new page. As you can see, I have already started to fill this in. As I mentioned, anytime I have something that I know that I need to do, I've just been writing it down right away versus then waiting for something like this. As much as I would love to kind of actually like physically plan along with you in this, it's not realistic. I would never ask anyone to save tasks to like wait for a video to come out. Put them on your page. We can at least talk about them. Now, there are a number of tasks that I do need to set up and that I need to migrate from this page. So I'll go ahead and do that first. Once we have all of this set up, we'll go ahead and just take a look at last week's bullet journal, make sure that anything else has been brought over from this, and then we'll go ahead and pay attention to the bullet journal itself and set up our weekly spread. All right, so everything has been migrated over here. So as you saw, I just used a very similar model to the bullet journal method with pushing this to the right-hand side. So that caret towards the right means that I'm migrating it forward to the next week. I don't have anything really that I'm taking back to my future log. I think that maybe after this week, if there are some tasks that I've carried over from here that I don't get done, I might have to think about them a little bit differently. But everything is set up here. I will say that my big priorities for the week, as I mentioned in the start of this, I like to carry them over with me as well, are going to be a few things along with what's over here. So just as that reminder, I set a 2-week goal for my comms outline, finish my team norms documentation, and this live org chart. So my priorities here are going to be that, including booking this quarterly meeting. So I actually have found that like I'll put priorities here, but I don't think about them as tasks because they don't fall down here. So one of them is I have to book this quarterly meeting with my team. It's a little bit different than our monthly one that we're doing. And it's important for me to get done this week. Even though I have it over here, I'm just going to put it up here as a reminder for myself as well. So all these things here, keeping that top of mind as we take on this week. All right, it is time to take on the fun part of our weekly plan with me. Not that all of the fun planning stuff isn't fun, but I love creating inside of my bullet journal. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I want to keep that going. Even though I'm using the task planner, I like to have fun in here still too. So this is the addition to bullet journal. This has been pretty awesome so far. So it's the Leuchtturm 1917 120 GSM paper. If you're ever interested in picking up one of these notebooks for yourself, you can use my discount code MENWHOBULLET10 at bulletjournal.com. That'll get you 10% off of any of their products that are on there, including their education courses, but most importantly, the notebook, right? That's what we're all here for. So what I'm going to do this week is a little bit different than the past weeks, right? I've been setting up kind of that weekly overview with space for notes. I'm still going to do that. I'm just going to make it look a little bit different. So what I've done is gone ahead and I've just split my page into thirds. I mentioned this last week as well when I was setting that up. In the bottom of the bullet journal here, you have a few little indicators, both for your bottom margins and your top, that help you split out that page. So since I'm doing that in the thirds, they're already marked on here. So I'm kind of already set to go. I'm going to be putting them in with some pen in just a moment. I like to do everything in pencil first just to make sure everything lines up okay. Now, what I've also done in here is up top, I've marked the middle of each one of these. And what I'm going to be doing is actually using the Distress Oxide this week inside of my bullet journal. I haven't actually used it inside of this one just yet. And we're going to use that with a circle stencil here. And what we're going to do is we're going to line them up. And then we're going to use these really cool brushes to take the ink, get them onto the paper here. It's going to make it look really cool. I love the way that the ink looks on the paper, so it'll be pretty exciting to set that up. So to do that, what we're going to need to do is grab some washi tape because it just helps it kind of stick on the page. I'm going to be using this circle stencil that's over here on the page. Kind of works out with the space pretty good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up with that very first space here. And then I'm just going to take my washi tape and I'm going to kind of just hold it down. I'm not trying to like fully secure this thing on here because I do need to pick it up and move it as we're going along, but I'm just kind of laying out a few of these on here. I also want to make sure I'm doing this to block out so that my brush doesn't kind of bleed onto the other parts of the page here. So I'm just kind of giving myself a bit of a barrier as we go around too, but the washi tape makes it easy to pick up without tearing your paper. That's the goal. All right, so let's go ahead and start here. So I'm going to be doing them all the way across Monday through weekend, really. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this brush and you just kind of rub it onto your ink pad. All right, we get that color there. And then you're just going to take it and you just start to kind of brush it around your page here. Pretty neat, right? I'm going to go ahead and alternate colors here. Probably not a great idea because it's ink, so I think as I go across, the blue and this green are starting to fade together, and you know what? I'm totally okay with that. Oh yeah, that's looking good. So as you can see, so it lays down the ink on top of here, and what I love is that it doesn't bleed through. Like if I was just to take that ink and just like kind of stamp it like hard onto the page, you may see through on this paper here, but you cannot see it through here. It looks awesome. You get these cool gradient colors inside of here, and it's going to work just like ink. So after a minute or two, this is going to be dry. We're going to write over top of it. So what's also really cool about this ink is that before it's totally dry, we're going to actually take water and we're going to flick it on here. And what you'll see is that this reacts with the water in a really cool way. And what you'll see is we'll get some cool splatters across here. We're only going to let it sit on the paper for just a moment. We're not going to do it for a long time. And then I'm going to go ahead and just put this paper towel over it to kind of stop the water. And then look how cool that looks. This is why I love this stuff. I just think it is the neatest stuff in the entire world. I'll put all of the links for everything that I'm using in today's video in the descriptions down below. So if you're like, yes, Distress Oxide for me, I want that. Yes, little blender brush deals, I need that. I mean, how cool does that look, right? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and let this now really dry because we've put water on top of ink and looks good still. I get a little nervous sometimes whenever I add water and ink to paper. So before we put in our headers, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm only going to give just a handful of rows. I think actually similar to what we did last week inside of here. This is going to go just straight across here at this 1/3 mark for this page. If I wouldn't have gone with such large shapes for the headers, I would have probably pushed that line up a little bit, but because they take up so much space, which I'm totally okay with, I only need a handful of spaces here for like what's happening during these days. I don't need anything nuts. What's different than what we did last week is I'm actually going to take the line from right below where those circles are, and I'm going to take it straight down the page and just kind of separate these out into their individual columns. Now when I'm rapid logging, that's not going to make a difference. I'm just going to continue straight along. So it's not like I'm really limiting myself to one of these columns. The whole purpose here really is mostly to give a little bit of division between each one of these, especially when I'm writing in the top section. I also really like to kind of block myself off personally when I'm writing inside of my bullet journals, at least from a width standpoint. I don't really like to limit myself. Oh, I went a little bit too high on that one. I don't really like to limit myself, but I do like to stop myself horizontally from writing too far across the page. We can actually fix this real quick. It's not too bad. So I have this really cool mono sand eraser. You may have seen me use these before, but what I love about it is that they can kind of like erase ink off of a paper. So that can line up with everybody else here. I usually don't mind mistakes, but this is something super small that I can fix with this little sand eraser. It does take off a little bit of your paper, but it kind of lines everything up nicely. All right, I think we're hopefully dry on here now. Yep, we're looking good. I'm going to be using this Sensations brush pen from Zebra. I've become a really big fan of this brush pen. The reason being that this tip doesn't get extra flexible. Kind of what you get is what you have. With some other brush pens, it's kind of after you use it for a bit, it starts to get real flex. Now I've been using this a lot recently and it's been holding itself up. So we're gonna go ahead and put the days of the week across here with the space for the weekend. And then we'll also put the dates down right below it. And then we'll be all set up for our weekly bullet journal. All right, I've gone through and I've just cleaned up some of my lines, got rid of the extra pencil, so we're all good to go for this week. I love the way this is looking. I just love this Distress Oxide in the bullet journal. It's something that I know a lot of people use for card making, which makes total sense, but I'm telling you, I'm in love. I'm loving this. I actually have some smaller brushes on the way. These are pretty big, but I want to use these for like some smaller pieces too in the future. So you'll see these coming back for sure. We have our weekly task planner all ready to go. And then we also kind of have our 2-week heads up here as well. So the next time we chat, we'll be actually setting up for February, which will be really exciting inside of here. And then also taking a look at any of the trackers and things that we have going on. If you like this type of video, I will have more of these coming up, both in our weekly Plan With Me sessions, but also specifically setting up your bullet journal for work. I have some other productivity videos on the way too, so if you haven't already, consider subscribing to this channel to get a look at everything we have going on with our work bullet journal, some creativity and productivity as well. I've got my work bullet journal playlist for you right here, so you can see what we did in the beginning of the month to set this whole thing up, and I will chat with you next time. Happy planning. See ya.